Bank of Canada announced a rate decision earlier this morning, 9:45. Kind of a different time. Usually they come out at 10. Maybe they're a little excited and wanted to come out at 9:45. They had a press conference at around 10:30. Basically, there were no change in interest rates. And I think what the main takeaway was for all of us investors, or should be for all of us investors, was that the next movement, for the most part, he didn't, Tiff Macklem, the head of the Bank of Canada, didn't come out and actually say this, but he believes if things keep going the way the Bank of Canada feels they will go, the next rate movement will be to the downside. The question is now when and how many rate cuts will we see? And we've talked about this on the show before. I think the first rate cut won't happen until mid-year, so the back half of 2024. And I think you're going to see maybe 2 to 3 rate cuts over that period of time. What would cause rate cuts to happen sooner? My opinion, as I said off the top of the show, if the economy were to falter and to fall a little quicker than the Bank of Canada anticipates or we all expect. So rate decision, really, there was no surprises there. We have a chart here that shows where the Bank of Canada is today. And you can see here, it's at a 5% rate, Bank of Canada rate, 5%. You can see on the far or the right-hand side, they have not raised interest rates and now in 4 meetings. I think the most important thing to understand with a 5% Bank of Canada rate, is that inflation is still in and around just above 3%. So there's almost a 2% wiggle room, if you will, for the Bank of Canada to lower rates. They can lower rates easily a point, in my opinion, get it down to 4% and still be well above the inflation rate. Bank of Canada also said this morning, or reiterated its belief that inflation will get down to their 2.5% rate by sometime in 2025. The bank believes that this year we might see a 2 number or an inflation rate with a 2 in front of it, but it won't reach its target until maybe mid-year 2025. So Bank of Canada continues to say, however, that should things change, should we see a spike in inflation, that yes, they would be forced to raise rates again. Now, before everybody gets excited and alarmed, they don't think that's going to happen. Neither do I. But of course, they always put that in their commentary. And another great chart that we found for the show today, Consumer Price Index chart. This shows the different categories and where the I guess inflation is and where it's going up. And you can see here the blue is December and the baby blue, I guess, is November. So you can see shelter is still high. We can't seem to get shelter or housing prices down. Food is pretty much the same as it was in November. You can see the first heading there. The Consumer Price Index itself went up to 3.4%, as we know. You can see that clothing and footwear went higher. Transportation, it was negative in the month of November, and here we are as a big positive there. Healthcare and personal care finally went down. Education went down, and some of the other products there, tobacco products, recreational cannabis, and alcohol beverages, that too went down. So you can really see from this diagram where the inflation is being stubborn. And I always boil it down to housing is where I start. The other thing I find interesting is part of the calculation of inflation is mortgage interest. So as the Bank of Canada raised interest rates, mortgage interest rates went higher, which obviously took inflation rates even higher. And it was almost like the self-fulfilling type of situation. The higher they put the rates, the Bank of Canada put up rates, the higher the mortgage rates went, which caused the inflation rate to go up, which causes the Bank of Canada to raise rates again. So it's kind of interesting how that works. But overall, inflation is coming down on both sides of the border. And in my opinion, it's only a matter of time. I'm guessing second half of the year before we see a cut in rates. But for now, the Bank of Canada is on hold.